you need to tackle first, let me put it that way. The first thing you need to really be sure of is what are your goals exactly. All right. So it's your goal to, do AI research. It's your goal to, work in an AI first company. It's your goal to work in a company that uses AI, maybe a business that tries to implement AI, but they're not an AI first company. So what exactly is your goal? Where do you want to work? Which aspect of AI do you want to function? All right. So there are so many areas. There's AI engineering, where you are an AI engineer. So an AI engineer, you're concerned with building and designing systems, infrastructure, and all that for AI algorithms and models to function. And then there's the AI researcher. The AI researcher is primarily concerned with building models, building robust models and pipelines, and ensuring that the probably whether it's the business or the organization, um, AI is being able to, AI um, can enhance the companies or the business processes and systems, right? Then there's the analysts, there's the machine learning engineer, machine learning analyst, and all of that. So it's a really, AI in some companies can be very interdisciplinary in the sense that a team can include even data science, people, data analysts, data engineers, right? So like that. So it's just for you to identify, okay, what area do I really want to go into, and then it will allow you to also focus your learning and then your development in that area. Okay. For example, if you want to go into AI engineering, um, to get a job in that sector, for example, if you want to pivot into that sector and you want to be an AI engineer, then um, beyond just learning, maybe taking online courses or attending boot camps and all of that, you need to have some projects that you can showcase. Okay, so what have you done, or what kind of problems can you solve? And not just some of these very straightforward, easy problems that I can easily find on YouTube or Google. Right? For example, running a convolutional neural network on MNIST data set. Almost everybody is doing that. So that doesn't really distinguish you in the market. So what you do is that you take a very specific problem, all right? In fact, if you identify your career goals and you identify where you really want to work in, it will help you to focus um, um, specific area. You learn as much as possible as you can from that area. Okay. Although if your goal is to become maybe a more generalistic person, someone that can sit here and sit there, can function in various subdomains of AI too, you can do that as well. But you will need to your learning curve will really have to be very deep, because you need to um, cut across so many areas, learn from so many areas, and you really need to push your limits and push your boundaries, right? So back to talking about projects, you pick a specific problem in a specific industry, right? Maybe e-learning, marketing, e-commerce, retail, insurance, health, all right? And then you take an interesting problem that can be solved using data-driven and AI approaches. Okay, then you use AI to tackle the question. First of all, you want to get as much domain knowledge as you can about the problem. And if you don't have domain knowledge in that area, then you probably partner or work with a domain expert in that area. All right, because solving one thing about AI is that um, as an AI person, if you are just trying to tackle a problem using AI on that problem without having domain knowledge first, you could get into deep waters, because how do you identify metrics? What are you trying to measure? How do you know what are the specifics in that particular industry and what you should really work on? Okay, so a domain expert would help you in that area. But if you want to still learn about it yourself, you can. You learn as much as you can about the problem, then you translate the problem into an AI question. All right. Then you gather your data, you do run your models, run your algorithms, build your models, deploy, and all of that. Then you have a working project that you can showcase. Right. So if in an interview now, you can easily and confidently talk about what you've done. All right. Not just relying on maybe what you learned in the course or all of that, which is going to be quite obvious to the interviewer. So in this case now, you are more confident about the problem you solved. You know it so well because you did it yourself, and then you can probably the company it may even be a company where they are interested in a particular thing you worked on. So they see you as a potential asset to the organization, and all of that. So, and apart from working in the company too, you can also be a consultant. All right, you don't have to sit down under a manager to do your AI. You can still be a consultant. You can consult for people. You can be a freelancer. Right, you freelance,
Okay.
yes, and you make money from that. Thank you very much.
All right. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we are taking more questions. Anybody else? Any questions at all from data to AI down to any other questions as regards technology career?
Please, one more question, please.
Okay, that's
Yes, I'm actually interested in the data because I'm actually trying to actually get into tech from an accounting background. So I'm looking at the data analytics. So I also want to know the careers in that area too, because I think the one he mentioned was about AI, which is also beautiful. But I'm looking at data analytics now.
okay. So I would hand that over to Mr. Pascal.
Okay. Thank you, Zion, for your presentation. So coming to the question, let me quickly tell you that there are 3 areas in the business of data you can try to get in. So if you see, I wanted to say data analytics, but then I was like, will data analytics answer it? Then I wanted to say data science, and I also didn't think about things. So I will keep using the word the business of data. So in the business of data, there are actually 3 levels you can come in from. You say your background is in accounting, and I bet you there's a ton of stuff that needs to be done with data around accounting. And like Zion pointed out, even in data analytics, domain knowledge is going to be one of the biggest things you are going to have to work with. Otherwise, you make a mess of a lot of things. For example, in the insurance industry, for example, if you don't know the importance of dates, you are going to fail a whole lot of things in the insurance industry. So coming to the careers in around the business of data, so I will divide them into 3. And I will tell you that, funny enough, people usually start at the top of it, which is the 3rd one. But I tell you that number 1 is data engineering. So before you even start talking about anything data, you have to amass that data. Okay, you have to harness it. Your data could be here, it could be there, it could be on a central database, it could be on a cluster spread across so many places. So the very first thing you want to do is to keep your data together in an ordered form that you can reach on demand and people have access to them when they want to have access to it. It involves planning the data structure and everything around schema and so on and so forth. That is called data engineering. We hardly hear about that, but without data engineering, nothing about data gets done. I mean, nothing, because you have not even kept this data together. So in that first area, you are going to have a lot of interaction with databases, setting them up, managing them to keep that data that you want. And you start looking at things like SQL and systems that keep your data. So that is data engineering. That is like the first step in the journey. Right, I'm taking for granted that the business requirement has already been established, which is where actually everything starts. So because if you don't have a business requirement, if you don't know the things you need to work towards, then you can't even start putting those data in place. So I'm taking the business requirement for granted. I'm just going straight to things that involve data. So you can be a data engineer where you have to deal with the systems that keep the data together in a database. Okay, you handle the database systems, you're going to handle how to manage them, how to make them available, how to plan the structure of the data you are keeping, and so on and so forth. So after that, you now come to where you now see the data analysts and business intelligence analysts. Okay, so now that you have a body of data that you can actually go to, people can now start pulling that data and try to get patterns, get insights, and so on and so forth. Basically look at the historic data. What is data telling us, and what can we know about what is happening today and what has happened before? This is where business analysts and data analysts come into play, okay? And they are building off of a body of data that's been already put together by the data engineers. That's the second part. So you can find yourself as a data analyst. You are telling the company, giving the company business insight of what has happened in the past around their sales. For example, in the accounting field, how much have historically come from this area of things, those area of things, how much has been spent on them. Okay, you start understanding that you are paying 100K on a business that brings in 80K per annum. Okay, and there's another business that brings in 150K and their expense is 50K. You want to maximize that business. That is what a data analyst tries to pull off of the data that the engineers have put together, so to say. Then building on top of that, you get machine learning and stuff that we are going to call data science, and then you start bringing up AI and so on and so forth. So after you have looked at the things, historic stuff and things that are happening now, how can you use that data you have amassed to try to predict what is going to happen in future? Okay, start building intelligent systems and so on and so forth. So in the business of data, you are either going to be a data engineer, you're going to be a business analyst or data analyst, or you are going to get into data science, the one they call data science, machine learning, and so on and so forth. Usually, what appears to be the easiest or the most convenient entry point appears to be data analytics, okay? But every person takes for granted that there is data that needs to be used. So if you are going to try to pivot into it in your accounting field, I bet you have tons of sales data, or even if it's not sales data, it's going to be things around costs and so on and so forth. Those are things you can start building. And like Zion pointed out, it's not your everyday trying to build dashboard and stuff like that. Find a problem your enterprise, your company, your organization is facing, okay? Look at the numbers and try to bring up stuff. It's no longer about, throwing dashboards front and back, working with data that is like clean from day one, because data analysts or people who want to get into data think that their data is going to be like those samples they give them. No. 50, 60, 70, sometimes 95% of what you are going to do is actually trying to figure out how to get that data clean so that you can even start doing anything. So whether a data engineer, a data analyst or business analyst, or you are doing to machine learning, either three of them that you want to break into, usually, like I said, data analytics appear to be the easiest one to get into because you can use Power BI and stuff around it. So those are the options you have in the business of data, and if you are trying to get into it.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, can I say something? Good
Yeah,
evening,
go ahead.
everyone. All
Good
right,
evening. Yeah, you can go ahead.
okay. Now you said one has to dive into one. Is there a situation whereby a company needs or tells someone to handle the three?
Yeah,
Like
there are.
to
There are.
to
There
be
are.
okay, you have to source for the data, then you also have to work on the data and then present the data.
All right, that's one big problem I found with organizations, right? They hire machine learning engineers or data scientists, like they will call them, or even AI engineers. They have had some um, experience around this. Now, you get the big buck data scientists. They've built algorithms that have powered some stuff to the moon. They've worked with NASA and so on and so forth, only to come into the organization and to find out that there isn't even a data warehouse. I mean, there's not even a central place that data is kept. Okay, this is what I've run into a number of times. And you figure out that there's data scientist, but if he finds out that data engineering, I mean, there's no basis to even start doing machine learning or doing anything predictive. Not to talk of AI, because there's just no body of data. So you find yourself, or they find themselves, having to now feel that need for having put the data together one way or the other, or if the management is more willing and more listening, they can describe to them that the job they've come here to do cannot actually take place because the prerequisites are not there. So they find themselves either starting to do data engineering and analytics as a precursor to the data science they have come to do, so to say, or they get frustrated and they leave. So yeah, some companies bring you in, they don't even know what they need to do. Okay, they hear that machine learning is beautiful and they just have to do it. So it's when you come in, you figure it out. But more organized companies today have these three areas clearly spelled out. especially when there are companies that have to deal a lot with data. So to answer your questions, yeah, so many companies misunderstand it and expect you to do all of them at the same time. But depending on your experience, your exposure, and how big the company is, it usually backfires.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we are still taking questions. Yeah, any question, any question? His Excellence here. I saw his message on the chat. If you are here, you could ask a question. Welcome, Jonas. You joined us late, but you can ask any questions as regard data analytics career, or a career in the business of data. Any questions on artificial intelligence and career in the same? Any questions at all on general tech career? Speakers are able to attend to them all. So feel free to ask your questions. Jonas, you're ready to say something. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. So it seems there are no other questions, or you are shying away from your questions. So I'll just take this random question. So since our bootcamp is generally get what's helping you start a career in tech. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. What would you advise me? Okay. I currently work for a financial institution. Okay. As a report analyst. Okay. I won't say data analyst this time because I'm not all about the coding and all. So what I do is the daily sales. Okay, it's in an Excel format. It's a raw data. So what I do is just to clean up the data and then present it for use in the meetings every day. Okay, so at the end of every business transaction, at the end of every day's transaction, what I do is get data from the database, okay, and then clean it up so they use it in their day's activities or for the next day's activities, tell them where they are and this is what they need to do and all that stuff. So would you say, because I learned on my own, like I was self-taught, okay, but I know that this is not what data science really is, or this is not what data analysis is. I know I still have a long way to go because it involves coding and all, but what I do doesn't involve coding. So I want to know, what would you suggest, or what do you think I need to do to break into data science?
Okay, so I'll let any of the speakers take that.
So you're already doing data analytics, but you are plagued by the imposter syndrome, right? A data analyst mustn't write code. What you are doing already is analysis. So let me tell you this: if the cleanup you are doing on those sheets, Excel sheets, are produce the same result all the time, okay, you just have to put it in order. So these people have a specific format they want you to show based on the input you are getting. Then if you have some programming language skills, for example, you have Python, the Python programming language, for example, I bet you don't need to touch that Excel one more time. You just write a script that picks up that file and prepares it to stay, to be in that format you want. It does it faster. You don't have to open Excel every day. You just have to run that script and it gets that job done. If there's a dashboard to go with it, you either decide to use Power BI to visualize, or if they are very simple and they're basic stuff, you can also use a programming language to do it. So what a programming language is going to do for you here is that it's going to help you automate it. It becomes faster. It has less possibilities of you running into errors, and you can actually free up time and do much more other things. As far as I'm concerned, you're doing data analytics already, but you don't know you are.
Wow.
Okay. So I was also that surprised the first time I learned from Mr. Pascal how that you could just take all of those your activities on Excel sheet and then just automate it with the Python scripts, and like, oh, wow, really. So we get to learn every day. So you are in data analytics, but you do not know it. And in my own contribution, I would say even in data analytics, you do more of the mindset, the thought process, the way you approach problems in the company than the codes you write. So the codes you write are only in respects to the way you think or the way you actually approach that problem solving. I do not believe I'm really talking as straight because I have a chat in the house. You could just take off my mic. Okay, so that's that on building a career in data, in the business of data, and in the artificial intelligence space. With that, I really hope you were able to gain value from today's session. The recordings are available because of the technical issue we had. It's available in 2 units. Yeah, and I'll share them with you in the chat session. If you do have any other questions, do well to communicate that to us in the WhatsApp group chats. We'll reach out to our instructors and get an answer for you. And if we can get an answer for you, make them available right away. Thank you for making out time. Any final sentences, questions, emergency?
Okay. Hello.
Okay, yeah, yes.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Zion and Pascal, for that wonderful presentation. Really good, because today we are looking up to how we can pick up these careers. And I'm happy too that Wasu, I don't know if he's still here. He was in our first lectures. His interest is more how he can get into this data and become a data scientist. And we also have someone here who is into agriculture. I'm surprised he didn't ask his question again. He wants to see how AI can power his agri sector as well. I don't know if Zion, you can be able to answer that question, how AI can help in agri sector. I can see Ezra raising his hand.
No, the question has been attended to. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Or am I wrong, Ezra? Okay, so over to you, Zion.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. First of all, I have to say that I'm not really, my own expertise does not really extend to the agri sector. So for now, the only thing I can say is, first of all, AI is very useful and very powerful when there's data, right? I'm aware that, of course, the agri sector has data. There are data products that you can get from that sector. There's a lot of data abundant in that sector. So definitely AI will have applications. All right. But for now, I can't really give specific answers because I've not really done something in that line before. So, but the only thing I can do now is probably I will do some background research, and then if I'm invited or I come on board later, I can bring answers to that, or I could as well send the answers to Arinze and then maybe subsequently send it to you guys. So I'll be happy to share some of my research on that.
Thank you very much. So I could also quickly mention Zenvos Technology. So Zenvos Technology is one startup that Professor is building. So basically what they are using is hardware, IoT, and artificial intelligence to improve outcome for farmers. And that's just one of many ways that AI can also be applied in that sector. So how is AI impacting there? So using their hardware and camera and IoT devices, you plant some devices in the farmland. Those devices uses the camera to capture data, visual data from the plants and how they are performing. So it can tell when it is suffering from pests and all that. It also has some sensors that when inserted to the ground, it can tell the humidity and all those agricultural those we call vitals, those data. It can also capture data from the air, from the atmosphere, and tell, okay, what's the temperature? Is it going to rain? Is it not going to? So it can also utilize data from the internet in that particular geometric and geographical area to tell is it going to rain. Now, it takes all this data to the cloud, and an artificial intelligence algorithm now computes that data and begins to offer insights back to the farmer on the software, like on an app, maybe web application or mobile application, whatever they are using to complement that. So what that AI does is that it matches it with other data sets and uses algorithms that it has been built upon to now tell the farmer, oh, I do not think you should irrigate your farm today. I do not think there's any need to irrigate your farm today because it's going to rain this evening, it's going to rain tomorrow. That's insight, and that's powered by artificial intelligence. It also tells you that, okay, I think the ground is very dry and this is, so I think you should come and irrigate tomorrow. It also uses to say, okay, from what you have pest right now, so you need to come and maybe apply pesticides or whatever those chemicals are that they use. So beyond that, I don't farm, so I can't really share much more insights onto as to how it's applied in the farmland, but you get the basic idea on how Zenvo's technology is utilizing artificial intelligence alongside other technologies to deliver insights and value to farmers and helping them improve their outcome. So I hope that actually also answers the question and makes an opportunity, creates opportunity for other participants in the session to also learn.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think
So
I think that answers very well. I think that would just that just answers the question.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So with that, I think we've come to the end of today's session. I really want to say thank you to the speakers, especially the, okay, you are saying something, Ugo, you are saying something.
I think it's a background noise.
Okay. So with that, we've come to the end of today's session. Really want to say a big thank you to our speakers that has made our time to impact knowledge to us this evening. Thank you very much to Mr. Pascal. I think he's not in the session at the moment. And also thank you very much to you, Mr. Zion. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Arinze.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you to all our participants that took our time to join us in this session. Thank you very much. Have a good night.